So you know that point in your relationship where things just get dull. They get boring. You get over it. It's like, as much as you love the person, the things in the relationship just aren't exciting. You know, the relationship kind of falls flat. It gets deflated. You might see someone else and there's something you have in common with that person and you think, wow, imagine what it would be like there. It's so exciting because there's something in common. But then you get torn. You're like, well, which one's for me? Is that telling me my partner's not right for me? Not necessarily. And there's a way that you can get out of having your relationship become boring. And it's all down to expectations. It's not what you think. There's a lot of detail that I'm going to explain about how these expectations come around and why they make your relationship boring. What's up, guys? My name's Mitch, and I help make spirituality practical so that you can apply the points to manifest your dreams. So over here, we got the things that are satisfied in our relationship. It's a box of things that work, things that just happen. You know, maybe when you go to bed, the ritual just fits the way you like to do things. Maybe they're tidy. Maybe the way that they cook dinner is spot on. Whatever things that you have that mean that you're satisfied, there's a whole bunch of them. And we treat them as one thing. And I'm going to explain that now. Next is the not satisfied list, right? It's things we want. It's things we want to happen. Now, everything in the box is one. And everything outside is, 2, 3, 4. What I mean by that is the things in the box all amount to the same value of 1. And then we want something else, and we need something else. And then we think of something else, or we see something else. We start to make these comparisons. And this is what starts to break down the excitement in the relationship. So when you have a certain desire, okay, silly one is like, one that I love, and I don't know why I love it, but I love my back being scratched. It's a thing in a relationship. It's not conditional. I'll make a joke about that. But the whole thing is, my partner has no problem doing that. But there's other things I want that seem to never get addressed. Once someone your partner starts to consider the things that you want in the relationship, and they start to take it in and go, oh, okay, I can do this, and it's not going to be at the loss of the relationship. And you now get satisfied, it goes into the satisfied box. But this entire box, when you have things that aren't met, like needs or desires that aren't met, versus all the things that are the same value. So one single thing that has not been met has got the same value as all of the things being met. And it's because it becomes normalized, so they're not equal. And that's this whole thing, 1 not equaling 1. It's because what they do and what you want are two separate things. You will value the things you don't have over the things you do. And I'm going to show you how to get out of that. But ultimately, what this whole system does is make you unsatisfied. No matter how many things are fulfilled in your needs and wants, it just goes into the value of 1 altogether. And that starts to create expectations, especially if your partner is really good at meeting your needs, because it's a standard normal practice and you just expect it. So the back scratch example, it might just happen all the time. Then it's not a big deal because it's happening all the time. Can't be a big deal. Anyone can always do more. These are the thoughts that sort of run through our heads when our relationship starts to decay in excitement. And other things you might be experiencing within your relationship that you're like, I really want these, seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger when they're not addressed. So it's a big deal when the relationship starts to lose its momentum and lose its excitement. And what this is a clear sign of is that it is not fulfilling the way it is, which is a clear sign to you that you are not completely happy with the way you are. That's how it runs down the tree. That's how it gets to the main point. You don't feel completely fulfilled. So one of the things we do in a relationship is we treat ourselves as actable parts. And what that means is we speak about things like 50-50. You know, I give my half and they don't. You might be feeling this. I give so much more than they do. We don't consider the effort this takes for someone else. And it might be something so simple like scratching your back. But what if their hands are sore? What if they work with their hands all day and they're constantly doing something that causes strain on their hands? Then that job has just become a lot bigger for them. And even though they do it normally and they're satisfied, the value of it is big for them and less for you. So we don't consider value systems. And I want to show you, this is something we have to do, is stop seeing ourselves as actable parts in the relationship. Meaning, oh, I could bring my 50%, then you have to bring mine. There's a trade-off that we need to fix. And that is, we see that giving should have an equal and opposite reaction. So here's a nice example, that not very nice, but here's a good example to explain this point. Is, you know, when you kind of see a beggar, in South Africa we call them beggars. You know, the homeless guys on the side of the road who stand there with their hands out asking for a bit of change. A funny thing, I thought to myself, I used to fear being in that position, being a beggar, having to beg so I can make ends meet. But I've now had my license for almost a decade, and I drive up to the same robot, to the same traffic stop, and it's the same beggar there for the last decade. And I think, well, you're still alive, you're still around, so it can't be that bad. You know, it's not like you only had 3 years to try and it didn't happen. But the point is, in that person's reality, they are stuck. They are sitting there with a mindset that keeps them there. That's fundamentally the difference, is what they think of themselves. And that's what puts them there. And this comes into a relationship. Now, I'm going to speak about that beggar scenario when we go and give some change or we give some money to them. We have this knowing that they're going to go and use it on harmful chemicals on their body, if you know what I'm talking about. And we think to ourselves, well, I don't want to fund that. I don't want to be a part of someone going and doing that. So then we withhold the money, or we give it and we hope that that doesn't happen. We don't want to see them high, or we don't want to see them out of their brackets. We want to see them the same. It's an expectation we formed because we don't understand that giving doesn't have to have an equal and opposite reaction from the person. Giving is a powerful thing to do in its own, especially when you don't expect anything from it. And I had this come to me the one day in that scenario where the guy was standing on the side of the road. He had a cardboard cutout box and he had writing, much like you're seeing here. He had writing on the cardboard box saying, "I know you don't like seeing people beg. I don't like begging either. And I'm just trying to make ends meet. I want to work again." It was like a story, a short story that once you stopped your car, you sort of read the box. It's a common thing in South Africa. And you read the message. And I just had this feeling of, oh, giving is a gift that I give to myself by itself. What he does with it is none of my business. And the same has to go with your partner and the things you do for them and the things you expect done for you. So there's a really great Chinese proverb that I heard a while ago, and it was a man who was standing sort of by, he walked past a fire pit, and a snake had gotten stuck in the fire pit, and it was trying to get out, and the fire is blaring, so the snake's going to die, it's going to burn. And he goes and grabs the snake to take it out of the pit, and it bites him. And he sees the bite, and as it obviously with the shock of being bitten, he drops the snake, and it falls back into the fire pit. So he goes to grab it again, and it bites him a second time, and with the shock, he drops the snake back into the fire pit. And the third time, he goes and grabs it, and it bites him, but he holds on and he releases it, and off the snake goes unharmed, and he's got 3 bites. And a bystander was there, and he walked up to the man and he said, "Why did you keep going to help the snake when you knew it was going to bite you? You know, that's a venomous snake." And he said, "It's in the snake's nature to bite, and it's in my nature to help. And I'm not going to let the nature of something else change my nature." And I think that story is so impactful, especially in relationships. Who you are and what you do must not be for an equal and opposite trade-off. Don't compare your effort. That should be a true expression of you. If you're doing something outside of your nature, you're already off track. You're already going to be satisfying something that's going to create an expectation that you can't uphold. Because it's not authentic to you. You have to do something that is true to yourself. All right? And this is why love languages are such a big deal. This is why it's even spoken about in the first place. Because if something is inauthentic to you, if you're not physical in sharing love, then that is going to impact your partner who might be. But in understanding it's not your authentic expression, that is important enough. Because you cannot give freely without an expectation. If you're doing something out of love that isn't part of your love language or authentic self, you think you're going above and beyond. And for that person, you're meeting their basic needs in a relationship. So in your mind, you're doing way more and they're in this, not equal situation. You're like, "But I do so much. I go and scratch your back or massage your back and I work with my hands all day and that hurts." And you're like, "But that's normal. That's a normal expectation." Then don't do it. And it becomes a begrudging situation where you start to resent giving effort or receiving it because there's this trade-off, this competition of who's going to put more into the relationship than the other partner. And this is how you get out of this, because this is the toxic system that you don't want to live in and you don't want to feed. So you want to give freely. And how you do that is by giving when it's true to you. If that's not enough, that's what you've got to accept, is then the relationship isn't. Because in your heart of hearts, you should know you're doing your best without an expectation. And a good way to do this is actually by pulling back, getting outside of the actable part and the character in your story, in your relationship, and going into, well, what can I do that's true to me, that is, and if they want some of that, that's sufficient. It's by being the observer first. So I'm sure you might have heard, there's a saying, seek to understand before being understood. And what that means is, understand the other person before sharing your point of view. Don't try and have a discussion to win, to be right. Your discussions, your arguments, anything in life that is with someone else, don't compete. It's a useless game because it's all about perspective. Go into an authentic expression of you. You're not arguing to win, you're arguing to be true. And this is the first part. So you understand there, when you're going into a situation, you go into it wanting to understand first. I want to hear your side. I want to hear how you think of this. I want to know how you feel. And just to gather an understanding. And then you express your authentic truth. And it comes in together of like, okay, we get one another now. And the next part is to stand back without expectations. A great way to do that is to come into every day as a new person. Like wake up and go, this is the first day of the rest of my life. This is the first day I'm going to see things the way I do. You set yourself up for this. You set yourself up not expecting anything. Then when your partner comes in with that mug of coffee as you wake up, it's a gift, not an expectation. You realize this person's gotten up out of bed earlier than you, gotten up on the cold floor, if that's your setup of your house, turned the kettle on, stood there and made you coffee because it means something to them that you are satisfied. That gift of giving must be appreciated, and it stops becoming a normal expectation. It stops falling into the box of things that they should always do. And you start to appreciate it more. And you can start to see their efforts because you let go of your expectations. I don't want you to do anything but be yourself. That is how you start transforming the relationship. That's how you get out of this boring state. By having no expectations. By allowing everything they do to be done for the first time. So you don't want anything except for them to be their true self. And then you'll see the things that they do for you are a lot more than one simple box with everything being the same value. You start to see, wow, they actually do so much to add value to my life by themselves without question. And you can start to see each other's side more. So those kind of things, wrapping that together is, okay, great. I want to understand your side and I want to have no expectations and I want us both to be our authentic selves. If you start to act, meaning you start to be a character, an avatar to try and impress or make them feel good. This happens a lot in the beginning of a relationship. Once that wears off and you're your normal self and you know that's acceptable, you're not a full person. You're acting in a half state that works. You want to be true to you, fulfill your own self, and allow everything that they have to be an addition. So allow this addition that you found to be something you're grateful for. Gratitude is a magic like tool to use in a relationship, especially when things get boring. Just start counting your blessings. See how grateful you are. It's not about thinking how life would be without them and how terrible. It's not about that. Fear should not keep you in a relationship. Your authenticity should. So if you've liked this relationship style video and you want to see more, make sure you leave this video a like, then I know to create more videos like this. And if you haven't already, I'd love to see your guys' names pop up on my subscriber list so that you don't miss any more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Mad love.